Something happened in the Strait of Hormuz overnight that the U.S. government is actively trying to downplay. Iranian forces struck American naval assets. Satellite thermal imaging confirmed fires in the strait corresponding to the positions of U.S. destroyers. And the three ships involved, the USS Truxtun, USS Mason, and USS Rafael Peralta, appear to have retreated to the Sea of Oman. Washington says everything is fine. The satellite imagery says something different. Let's break down exactly what happened and what it reveals about where this war actually stands. Iran deployed a coordinated combination of fast attack boats, drones, and anti-ship missiles against U.S. naval forces operating in the strait. This is what military analysts call a salvo model attack. You do not need every projectile to get through. You need one or two to leak past the air defense wall. And when an anti-ship missile hits a destroyer, even if it does not sink the vessel, it removes that ship from active combat operations. The crew must fight the damage. The ship withdraws. The message is sent. American destroyers carry up to 96 missile cells, but a significant portion of those are air defense missiles already depleted from weeks of operations. The remaining offensive capacity, Tomahawk cruise missiles, has been largely spent. These ships are now operating in a contested waterway with diminished magazines against an opponent that has calculated exactly how many projectiles it takes to overwhelm their remaining defenses. This is not a theoretical vulnerability. It is playing out in real time. Now let's talk about what the thermal satellite imagery actually shows. NASA fire detection systems confirmed multiple simultaneous fire signatures in the strait corresponding precisely to the Iranian claims. The U.S. denied any damage. But the destroyers left the area. That fact alone tells you what you need to know. Warships do not retreat from patrol zones because everything is going fine. Iran then broadcast a message through regional channels warning all commercial vessels to maintain a distance of at least 10 miles from U.S. warships. The reason given was direct. Sometimes it becomes necessary to teach American forces a lesson with missiles and drones, and nearby vessels could be caught in the exchange. That is not the language of a side that is losing. Now let's put this in the broader strategic context, because the naval skirmish is one piece of a much larger picture. The CIA released an assessment claiming Iran is operating at approximately 70 to 75% of its pre-war military capacity. Iran's foreign minister publicly rejected that figure and stated Iran is operating at 120% of its pre-war capabilities. His reasoning was straightforward. Iran moved its missile production, launch systems, and strategic assets underground at the start of the conflict. The American and Israeli strikes destroyed buildings. The equipment inside those buildings had already been relocated. Iranian missile production has not stopped. It has accelerated. This is consistent with the Reuters intelligence assessment confirming that Iran's nuclear sites are intact and the timeline for nuclear capability is unchanged from before the war began. 49 days of intensive American and Israeli airstrikes, and the strategic objectives have not been achieved. Meanwhile, the United States has burned through approximately half its Tomahawk inventory, a third of its ballistic missile intercept capacity, and a major portion of its THAAD missile defense stockpile. These are not replaceable within months. Some of these systems take years to rebuild. And China has now restricted exports of the rare earth materials critical for manufacturing the guidance systems and semiconductors that go into these weapons. The more this conflict continues, the worse that equation becomes for Washington. And the Gulf Arab states know it. Dubai's hotel occupancy has collapsed to roughly 10%. UAE oil output has dropped by approximately 40% since the conflict began. Iran's output, while reduced, remains well above its 5-year average. The economic pain of this conflict is not being distributed evenly. The countries that bet on American protection and sided with the American and Israeli operation are absorbing massive economic damage. Iran, despite being the target of the campaign, is managing its energy exports through alternative routes. Saudi Arabia already demonstrated this calculus when it refused to open its airspace and military bases for American operations, even after a direct call from the White White House. The Gulf states are no longer automatic endorsers of American military decisions in their region. The picture that emerges from all of this is not one of a superpower managing a difficult but winnable situation. It is one of an operation that set out to achieve regime change, nuclear disarmament, and control of the Strait of Hormuz, and has achieved none of those objectives while depleting the military resources needed for any future confrontation. Iran did not win this war by defeating the United States in a conventional sense. Iran won it by surviving, by inflicting enough cost to force a ceasefire, by maintaining control of the strait, and by keeping its nuclear program intact. In strategic terms, enduring against the full military force of the United States and Israel while preserving your core capabilities is not a draw. It is a victory. The destroyers retreated, the fires burned in the strait, and Washington is still looking for a face-saving way out.